just had something go right over the top of us that looked like a long cylindrical object that almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing moving really fast. We just had something go right over the top of us that looked like a long cylindrical object that almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing moving really fast.
Well, good evening, everyone, or good morning. Today's show is going to be something a little bit special. It's something up to date. I mean, normally we talk about things in a retrospective sort of way, but this is stuff hot off the press. So Simon, I want you to just listen to the names and descriptions I'm going to read to you, and then I'm going to ask you a question of what do they all have in common.
Okay.
Stephen Garcia, a government contractor who worked at the Kansas City National Security Campus in Albuquerque. He vanished in August 2025. Surveillance footage showed him leaving his home on foot, carrying only a handgun, and he has not been seen since. He held a high-level security clearance for manufacturing non-nuclear components for nuclear weapons. Our second name is Melissa Casillas, an administrative professional at the Los Alamos National Laboratory. She mysteriously vanished in June 2024. In a detail that has fueled much of the online speculation, both her personal and work phones were found at her home, having been factory reset. She was last seen walking along a highway without her wallet or keys. Our third person, Carl Grillmeyer, a renowned Caltech astrophysicist at the Infrared Processing and Analysis Center, IPAC. He was gunned down at his home in February 2026. Grillmeyer was an expert on galactic structures and stellar streams, research that some theorists believe overlaps with the detection of dark or exotic masses in our local space. Person number 4 is Frank Meyerwald, a veteran NASA engineer at the Jet Propulsion Lab, JPL. He died on July 4th, 2024, at the age of 61. No public cause of death was ever declared. Meyerwald was deeply involved in designing instruments for identifying biosignatures on Europa and Enceladus, as well as surface biology and geology missions. Number 5 is Michael David Hicks, a JPL research scientist and physicist who died in 2023 at the age of 59. Like Meyerwald, his cause of death was not publicly released. He specialized in the physical properties of asteroids and comets and worked on the DART project, which successfully tested kinetic impactor technology to detect space objects, a field closely related to high-energy propulsion. Number 6 is a biologist and pharmaceutical scientist at Novartis, spelled Novartis, Novartis, with advanced degrees in physics and biophysics. He went missing in December 2025, and his body was recovered from a lake in Massachusetts in March 2026. While officially labelled a tragedy related to personal struggles, his name is included in the congressional inquiry because of his interdisciplinary background in biophysics. And a couple of extra quick mentions is recently General McCasland, missing February 2026. He was a commander of the Air Force Research Lab at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, as we know, a very famous base for those conspiracy theorists out. Next up, we have Monica Reza, who went missing in June 2025, who was a former colleague of McCasland's and worked on advanced superalloys. And a special mention has to be given to Amy Eskridge. She passed away in 2022 and claimed that the gravity shielding technology first teased by Podlogoff's YBCO experiments had been perfected and moved into black projects, which were overseen by the very agencies, Department of Energy, NASA, and the Air Force, which these individuals were all linked to. What do you think they all have in common?
That just seems absolutely bizarre to me, because all those people are Americans, aren't they? Are they not? Well, apart from Podolkov.
Probably naturalised Americans.
Yeah. And they nearly all seem to be involved in the same field.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I don't know how many scientists die on an average day of the week, but that's a very, very specialist field indeed you're talking about. You're talking about people who are not...
Highly specialised fields,
you're
aren't they?
talking
They're
about
not...
people who specialise in how best a pizza works after you get it out of a plastic bag and put it in the oven. These people are dealing with technology for the investigation and traversal of space.
Yes.
And nothing else.
Yes.
So the fact that all of them have died in the last 4 years, and I'm presuming, by the way, that what that last sentence you read, there is an ongoing investigation as of this week in April 2026.
Yes.
Lawmakers are demanding a testimony from the FBI and NASA to determine if these experts were targeted due to their proximity to sensitive propulsion data. Now, what I can't understand about that idea is, if they were important in propulsion, they are extremely valuable people to the American military. So why on earth would you ask the FBI if they'd been killed? That would be like me killing my 10 best employees because they were just about to make me a ton of money.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
And I don't think the FBI will have enough power and access to even delve into some of the projects they were working in, because they're such black projects. And especially another name to highlight is General McCasland, you know, the former commander of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is well known for its
Wright-Patterson, absolutely.
For alien recovery,
sands. Exactly.
alien recovery jobs and so forth.
I found absolutely fascinating that you said about all of this was that I'm just going to slightly move that a little bit. What I found absolutely fascinating was that some of these descriptions, she was last seen walking. This is Melissa Cassias. She was last seen walking along a highway without her wallet or keys.
The thing is that that's a strange way to present the information, isn't it? I mean, let's just say that a police report was a woman driving past who recognised her. Why didn't she offer her a lift? I mean, that's a pretty friendly part of the world down there, the Bible Belt. You wouldn't just leave a young woman walking down the road by herself, would you? Secondly, the police report that would find her keys and her phone and her wallet and stuff at the house is a completely separate report. The only reason you would put those two things in the same sentence is like when they do it on Crime Watch, you know, when they're trying to convince you that somebody had no interest in ever returning. They're trying to blame it on a suicide, which means it probably wasn't anything of the sort.
It's a really, really interesting idea that she was demonstrating behaviour where she was planning to disappear.
Yeah.
Then we've got the guy who had their phones reset. Who was that?
That's a bit further down. This is Melissa Cassias had her phone reset.
Oh, that was Melissa as well.
Yeah. So that in itself makes it
mysteriously
more.
vanished. Okay, and the details fueled much other ones. Both her personal work phones were found at home having been factory reset.
Yeah, that's very deliberate. That's not done by mistake. You know, 2 phones as well.
Well, I mean, if you were planning a suicide, you might do that. Because to reset your phones means your husband could sell them, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there is...
They do think like that, scientists.
Well, I mean, suicide people do in general. That's just the kind of thing they do.
Yeah.
you know, because you've got a lot of time to think in the closing days.
Yeah.
Now, moving on. If you look at somebody like Frank Mywald, he was 61. Now, that's not that young to die, really.
No, that's, a lot of people pass away of natural causes much earlier than that. Bad health and so forth.
No public cause of death was ever declared.
Now, that's the suspicious part.
Now that is...
Why would you not say it was natural? Because at 61 you would normally announce that.
Well, that means they didn't even tell his wife or family or anyone, which is extremely unusual. I mean, that would be unusual for a cat. Never mind a person.
Yeah.
Which means, I think, that they didn't release anything about the autopsy at all. Which means something happened to his body that they couldn't even begin to talk about. Is the only way I could explain something like that.
Yeah, so work accident, perhaps. We've heard stories about.
Well, I mean, a work accident might bring on a court case, but I don't think it would stop you telling the wife that it was a work accident. I mean, that happens all the time.
But we've heard testimonies from whistleblowers saying that people have lost their lives and have been grievously harmed from these experimental propulsion systems or reverse engineered alien technology craft and so forth. We've heard that before in testimony, so that could have been his fate. You just don't know.
It's possible,
It's
but
possible,
he's working
but
for
you don't
JPL, and typically JPL these days make the Martian robots and stuff, don't they?
Yes.
They don't. It says he's a veteran NASA engineer. That doesn't mean he's interested in propulsion, but
it doesn't mean he's not contracting for someone else.
It doesn't. No, not at all.
A lot of these people come out of government and they get hired.
And here we go.
For private entities.
Michael David Hicks, he was a JPL research scientist and physicist who died in 2023. Just like Maywald, his cause of death was not publicly released. Well, they worked in the same place and died
Within a year
of each other, almost at the same age, so very likely involved in a similar project. His cause of death was never publicly released. He specialised in the physical properties of asteroids and comets and worked on the DART project, which successfully tested kinetic impactors.
Yeah, we've seen those.
Technology to deflect space objects. So that is basically
the guy that you need if there's a huge asteroid heading towards Earth at the end, and the end of days are coming.
Well, you're talking about a gigantic force field.
Yeah.
Well, if you can deflect something, then you can propel stuff.
True.
It's all about force. A field closely related to high energy propulsion. Well, okay. Well, that means that JPL do high energy propulsion. So the guy, Frank Maywald,
may also have been working.
He might have been doing exactly the same thing. So that almost makes me wonder if the whole of that Martian rover stuff
it's just a front.
It's just a front to keep you thinking about what JPL really do.
Well, of course, I think definitely. I mean, it's public money that they have to account for. So they have to have a front-facing project to dump all the money in. And...
I never understood why something called JPL would be building robots anyway.
True.
I mean,
the rover and so forth doesn't
it's
make
like,
sense.
It's like welcome to Rolls-Royce. This is the engine division where we sew together the seat covers.
Yeah,
I mean, it just doesn't make the blindest bit of sense.
No, it doesn't. No.
Yeah.
Good point.
A biologist. Okay, so Jason Thomas was a biologist and pharmaceutical scientist at Novartis. I don't actually know who that is. Let's just see if we can find out who that is. Novartis, innovative
medicines company.
Okay, so he was a pharmaceutical engineer. Okay.
Yeah.
Degrees in physics and biophysics. Okay, so he went missing in December 2025 and his body was recovered from a lake in Massachusetts. You see, one of the things about people who are very, very, very involved in things like have a lot of degrees and stuff like that, they don't tend to be people
that give up so easily.
They don't tend to be people troubled with a lot of doubt, because you can't get a degree in biophysics if you suffer from a lot of inner doubt.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to be a crammer.
Yeah.
You know, and now, okay, it doesn't actually say how old he was, does it?
No.
Officially labelled a tragedy related to personal struggles. Well, it's not easy to drown yourself in a lake. Do you know what I mean?
No. Unless you're in a car and you're locked in, you know.
And you jump into a really deep lake.
Or you have a weight tied to your feet.
Well, even then, you've got to get far enough in to be underwater. I mean, you could always just take a step back again. I mean, to drown in a lake, you really need to be unconscious and dropped out of a helicopter or something. You know, I mean, how do you drown in a lake? That seems like a bit of a very strange thing to me.
I think it's a very strange way to take your own life. You know, I think, you know, it's a slow and traumatic death, isn't it? Really, you want something quick and like in front of a train, or, you know, jump off a high building or something like that. You know, it's still suspicious, but it's not as suspicious as other deaths.
It is interesting because he has a physics degree and in biophysics. So he's not necessarily that concerned with things like biochemistry. He's concerned with things about
how they affect the physiology of people. Perhaps.
Well, more about the, you know, how things work subatomically. For instance, how your brain might work in a neurological kind of way, or something like that.
That's interesting.
But either way, the simple truth is that he is not a doctor of medicine. He is a physicist and biophysicist. So he is on this list for a reason. Now, on top of that, the strangest part of this, I think, to me, is the Ning Li.
We didn't mention Ning Li's name, but she died in 2014, didn't she?
Well, there's a few other people. Ning Li was hit by a car in 2014, which annihilated her brain. She suffered from
severe head trauma.
Severe head trauma, which caused Alzheimer's. She couldn't even remember who she was for the rest of her life. Her husband died instantly of a heart attack as it happened.
Witnessing her being run over.
Exactly.
And we should add, on the campus.
He was dead on the road, right next to her, when she died, when she got brain damage. She didn't die for another 10 years. But he died right there, just from seeing her die. Now that is just about the weirdest death. I mean, that's not a grief reaction.
No.
He died instantly, presumably from a heart attack. Although, how they could work that out seems a bit troublesome to me. It almost sounds like...
But let's go into what Ning Li studied first.
Well, okay. Because
it's relevant for what we're discussing. She died quite a while ago, but, you know, more than 10 years ago.
That Ning Li, along with
Amy
Eskridge.
Yeah, Amy Eskridge, yeah.
And, of course...
the Russian
Poletnikov. I'm not sure if that's how you say it.
Yeah, Poletnikovs.
I can't say his name. I just can't say it.
Yeah.
They were all working on something concerning what's known as YBCO, which is yttrium, barium, copper oxide, or 1,2,3 as it's commonly known. And it is quite a recent superconducting material. And as far as I know, currently it's still the only superconducting material that works above the boiling point of nitrogen. In other words, that would work in our atmosphere normally. And it's quite an unusual material anyway, in that it doesn't... have the typical properties because it's made of kind of like a lattice. It doesn't have the same diamagnetic properties of maglev, for instance. It tends to remain statically floating, which is very, very unusual. Now,
Very useful for a UFO.
the properties of this compound, if we'll call it that, it's a crystalline compound that displays high temperature superconductivity. There are various compounds that have that formula. The simple truth is that all those people in that list, and I'm talking about Ning Lee,
Amy Estridge,
and Potland were all experimenting. Eugene Podkletnov,
Yeah.
who wasn't killed.
No,
he was a man
Yeah.
who was doing research on YBCO at one university, was asked to give a speech at another, and by the time he got there, they had patented all his research and all of his papers from his office when he got back to his own university were missing. So he had absolutely no proof he'd ever had anything to do with it, and they just erased him from academic history.
Yeah.
Which to me
means you're over the target, aren't you?
I think he is got to be, what he was studying has got to be extremely close to something of incredible importance. Because we're not talking about someone who they shot to scare anyone off. They had to get rid of everything he knew.
But they had to learn. Obviously, he was a pioneer, and they had to extract all the information that he got that they didn't know themselves, ring fence it, and then probably just get rid of it, just erase him from ever being related to it.
Well, he was finished.
That's how important it was.
So after his 1996 paper caused a media firestorm, he was expelled from his university in Finland. Now, he retreated to Russia, which is a very unusual thing for a Finnish person to do, because Russia invaded Finland, let's not forget. And mostly avoided the public eye since the early 2000s, claiming that he continues to work for private interests and that mainstream science is too critical to share findings with. Now, of course, that's just a bit of garb we're reading on the internet. I suspect what that really means is he's not allowed to talk about what he's researching anymore.
No.
Because when he wrote that paper, he wasn't really expelled. The Russians said, if you don't want us to kill your family, you're going to come and work for us now.
Welcome home.
Welcome home, exactly. Because they knew if they gave it another day, the Americans would get to him and he'd make exactly the same offer. So I think there's a real chance that Podkletnov actually had the technology they've got in the black world.
Which could be, are we looking more towards 0-point energy or electrogravitics?
We're looking about gravitational manipulation.
Yeah, so more like the electrogravitics.
I mean, he is somebody, obviously now, that Amy Estridge speech she was giving, she couldn't find a single PDF of his work anywhere online, so she had to take a photograph of the pages that she could find to show in her demonstration. You're talking about something that wasn't just
completely erased from history.
It wasn't just sneered at, it was annihilated. They found every single copy and destroyed it.
Yeah, and squirreled it away somewhere under patent law and in the annals of some.
So let's just see what it
laboratory.
says on Wikipedia. Eugene Podkletnov.
Not that we trust Wikipedia, may I add.
Now, a Russian ceramics engineer known for his claims made in the 90s of designing and demonstrating gravity shielding devices consisting of rotating discs constructed from ceramic superconducting materials. Now,
It's very honest of Wikipedia to say
why
that.
BCO? Because that is a ceramic superconductor. That's why it's a high temperature superconductor, because it's actually a ceramic rather than a metal. So, of course, it's got a lot of metal in it, but he then spent 15 years at the Institute for High Temperatures and the Russian Academy of Services. He received a doctorate in material sciences from the University of Finland. After graduation, he continued superconductor research at the university in the Material Science Department until his expulsion in 1997. Now, I've never ever heard of anyone being expelled from a university before in my life.
Especially, obviously, it's not mentioning why he was expelled.
I've heard of people being...
I mean, for misconduct, yes, it's fine. For misconduct,
well, I mean, if you were found having an orgy with 6 of the lecturers, I still don't think you'd get expelled. The lecturers might do, but you wouldn't. I mean,
yeah.
What's really interesting to me about this idea is that he's talking about gravity as if it's something that travels like light. Now, we know that gravity travels at the speed of light, according to Einstein.
We know it bends light.
Well, but we know that it travels at the speed of light. If we were to make the sun disappear, it would be 8.5 minutes before we felt that effect on Earth, according to relativity. Now, someone in the laboratory was smoking a pipe, and the pipe from the smoke pipe is a column above the superconducting disc. So we placed a ball-shaped magnet above the disc, attached to a balance. The balance behaved strangely. We substituted a non-magnetic material, silicon, and still the balance was very strange. We found that any object above the disc lost some of its weight, and we found that if we rotated the disc, the effect was increased. I can't think of any reason that would happen at all. So let's have a look at what it says under public controversy. His first peer-reviewed paper on the apparent gravity modification effect, published in 1992, attracted little notice. In 1996, he submitted a longer paper in which he claimed to have observed the larger effect, 2% weight reduction, to the Journal of Physics. According to Platt, a member of the editorial staff, Ian Sample leaked the submitted papers to Robert Matthews, the science correspondent for the British newspaper The Sunday Telegraph. On September the 1st, Matthews' story broke, leading with a startling statement: scientists in Finland are about to reveal details of the world's first anti-gravity device. In the ensuing uproar, the director of the laboratory where Podletnov was working issued a defensive statement that Podletnov was working entirely on his own. Vurinin, listed as the paper's co-author, disavowed prior knowledge of the paper and claimed that the name was used without consent. Podletnov himself complained that he had never claimed to block gravity, only to have reduced its effect. Right, so there we go. So, all just in the space of 3 or 4 paragraphs, there's a huge amount of conflicting information. So, he never blocked gravity. He reduced its effect by somewhere between 0.3 and 2%. He withdrew his second paper after it had been initially accepted. The resulting uproar of the alleged claims and the withdrawn paper is reported to be the primary reason for his expulsion from the lab and the termination of his employment at the university.
It's still a bit harsh for, making a claim and then withdrawing it. Normally, you withdraw it because you don't want to be...
In 1997, a telephone interview with Charles Platt, Podletnov insisted that his gravity shielding work was reproduced by researchers at universities in Toronto and Sheffield, but none have come forward to acknowledge this. The Sheffield work is known to have only been intended as partial replication, aimed at observing any unusual effects which might be present. Since the team involved lacked the necessary facilities to construct a large enough disc, and the ability to duplicate the means by which the original disk was rotated. Now, you see, it's sentences like that that really, really confuse me. When you sit down to do an experiment, the first thing you do is you draw up your aim. And your aim has to be something very, very specific. And your aim has to include all the equipment you're going to need, how it's going to work, and what the purpose of all it's going to work. And then you've got to come up with your method. And your method is how you're going to use this equipment and what your...
intended results.
Well, not necessarily, you don't want to talk about intended results, but what your...
expectations? Or...
Well, not expectations, but... are they going to be spinning at this speed? Are you going to start like this? And what kind of motor are you going to use? Well, is it going to be in a vacuum? Is it going to be on top of a mountain or at the bottom of a valley or underwater? Everything has to be put out before you start. You don't just say...
It has to be repeatable.
Exactly. It has to be repeatable by anyone who's never seen it before in their life. The idea that they would start an experiment without having the right disc or any of that stuff, I just find that completely impossible to believe.
Or possibly a lie for them.
It sounds much more like something to try and say it's all a load of rubbish, but don't repeat. But don't sue us if you can repeat it.
Yeah.
Just because we didn't manage to repeat it, we had the wrong equipment anyway. It doesn't make any sense.
Kind of puts it to bed quietly with a kind of varnish of it's been tried to a level that
it's a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
But we can't. But don't sue us if we're wrong. Kind of thing. Now, in a BBC News item, it was alleged that researchers at Boeing were funding a project called GRASP, Gravity Research for Advanced Space Propulsion, which would attempt to construct a gravity shielding device based on rotating superconductors. But a subsequent popular mechanics news item stated that Boeing had denied funding GRASP with company money, although Boeing acknowledged that it could not comment on black projects.
It went dark, basically.
Well, I mean,
fund it above ground.
Hang on a minute. So, so let's talk about exactly what they're saying there, right? Was not being funded with company money.
So government money.
Well, if it's a black project, whose else money could it ever be anyway?
It's government money.
You can't have black projects funded by Boeing.
No.
That's not physically possible. You couldn't do. I mean, what are you using the money for? I'm sorry, mate. I can't tell you.
Yeah.
Well, who's going to sign that off? What are you going to say to the tax man? Of course, it's a government project. It's black.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is just a really, really.
It's very telling. Actually,
it's just a really weird. No journalist would walk away from that sentence and think that was right. Do you know what I mean?
There'll be more questions. There'll be more follow-up questions.
It's just absolute, complete nonsense.
But let's go back to, obviously, the links to the...
But it also says, although Boeing acknowledged. So Boeing, in writing, admitted they were doing black projects paid for by the government. That's what that sentence actually says. It is admitting that Boeing was doing black projects for the government on anti-gravity.
And gravity shielding. Material.
In the 90s.
So, where could they be now? Who knows?
So let's go on a bit further, because it also says here, rather interestingly for Wikipedia, in July 2002, an article by Nick Cook, you remember Nick Cook, he did the book about 0 Point.
0 Point, yep. Very
in
good
Jane's Defence Weekly, reported that Boeing's internal project GRASP, right, which they never denied, gravity research for advanced space propulsion to evaluate the validity of Podletnov's claims. The briefing obtained by Jane says, if gravity modification is real, it will alter the entire aerospace business. The briefing allegedly says that Boeing, as well as BAE Systems and Lockheed Martin, tried to approach Podletnov directly, and Podletnov is strongly anti-military and will not provide assistance if the research is carried out in the white world of unless...
From his Moscow apartment with a KGB agent with a gun to his head.
Is strongly anti-military and will only provide assistance if the research is carried out in the white world of open development. In other words, if they're going to use it to blow people up, he's not interested. Now,
Of course, that's what they want to do.
so that explains, I think, why he's still alive.
Yeah, he distanced himself from the
Because he said, I don't care if you carry on trying to do it, but I'm not going to have anything to do with it. I'm not going to try and develop it myself. I've given up having anything to do with it. I've decided to live.
Or so he says, but you know the Russians better than that. I know the Russians better than that. They will have him in a lab somewhere doing something for them because they have to counter what America are doing.
Well,
so
it's possible.
It's naive to think that if you're living in Moscow and you have that sort of intellectual property, you're not going to do anything with it.
But it also means that Boeing and BAE are actively researching anti-gravity. Otherwise, why would they go and ask him?
No, absolutely.
So this proves that Boeing and BAE have an anti-gravity research project.
Back in the 90s or early 2000s.
And being paid for by black budget. In the 90s.
Yeah. So this kind of circles back to the relevance of these individuals, obviously not Podlekov's himself, but the other individuals such as Amy and Ning Lee. It kind of circles back to Ling Lee research for the US, and what were they going to do for them to all of a sudden go missing or all of a sudden be killed?
But once again, Ning Lee was killed in Huntsville, Alabama, where Amy was killed.
Same campus, was it not?
Same campus.
So there's stuff definitely. I've looked at a couple of Amy's podcasts that she's done with some other people, and she mentions that there is a lot of research, weapons research going on at Huntsville. A lot of things that black projects that the world would never know. She mentioned that if there were to be a nuclear war, that Huntsville is on number 3 on the list for the Russians to hit, because of its research and value as a target.
Well,
so it does bear some importance that Huntsville, has some relevance to
the
sort of work that goes on there.
I hear what you're saying, but if that's really true, it's probably 4 miles underground anyway.
True.
I mean, a nuclear weapon is about killing people. It doesn't really do that much. Some very much else. I think what's really interesting to me about all this is all these people are using the same yttrium, barium, copper oxide lattice compound. I
hear barium a lot as well in other discussions on UFO material as well.
Well, yeah, bismuth a lot.
Bismuth and barium. Yeah.
I mean, barium is just a rare earth metal. It's quite a common thing. But one of the interesting things about the whole of this situation is I'm just trying to. So obviously, because Podletnikov, he's not dead. We never found out whether he was in Alabama.
No, but would he be allowed to be in Alabama?
Well, I just wonder how. If all he ever did was release that paper in Finland in 1996, and he was thrown out of the university by Finland, how could Boeing be trying to buy him back 5 years later?
In Moscow.
What was Finland's motivation for throwing him out?
That's an interesting question. Outside influence, most probably.
But if he had that much information, surely you could have put him in a room full of people who were fake people from all over the world sharing information, who were just all working for the CIA or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could have pretended to fulfill his wishes and carried on his research, and yet all they did was panic and throw him out because they must be a member of something like NATO or whatever. And as soon as he released that paper, they just went, "Oh my God, they're going to kill us," because that is a panic reaction.
Yeah, that is distancing yourself really quickly from something that could have a lot of blowback.
The other guy immediately refused to acknowledge he'd ever had anything to do with it or knew anything about it or ever. He wanted his name removed instantly.
Well, he obviously was privy to the dangers that it could cause with that sort of information.
But he'd already released a similar paper 4 years earlier in '92.
But it can't have been something that was as on point as Kudnetkov. Well, sorry, what's his name?
Podletkov.
Podletkov, sorry.
I mean, we're never going to get it right.
We're never going to get it right.
But so here we have a situation where the only person they haven't killed is in Russia. And I think that must basically be...
They can't get to him.
No, I think he made a deal with the KGB saying, look, I'll give you the technology if you stop the CIA killing me. What because I just don't understand. What I can't understand is maybe the only explanation for this is that the CIA already have this technology and all they care is that no one else gets it.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I
So
think the nail on the head.
Podletkov had to go to the Russians because the Finnish knew the CIA were going to come and kill him. So they said, "Get out of here, or you've got to get the hell out of here."
Yeah,
Because they're going to kill you. They killed everyone else. They're going to kill you. You might as well go to Moscow because at least they might be able to protect you.
But this was all before Amy obviously latched onto this, and she obviously lost her life because of it. This was back in the early 2000s, in the late 90s, early 2000s. So, I think it was still in the development stage for the Americans and the
Well, I don't think
English.
so. I reckon BAE and Boeing were just trying to get him out so they could kill him. I reckon the CIA have had this for a long time.
You're probably right. Yeah.
I reckon they used BAE specifically to appear non-American. To try and get him to say, oh, well, at least it's the British. I'll go and work for them. And then they just killed him. Because whatever this is, these people have had this technology for a while. And to me, they've used it to get to Mars, to the far side of the moon, to Jupiter, to Neptune maybe even. And
The secret space force you're talking about.
I'm talking about the secret space force, and the Russians are not as advanced as the Americans. And although some things happen globally, the Americans don't share a lot of this stuff with other people. And I think that I think the British have this technology because just the number of people who see these flying triangles over Britain. Unless they're just American bases in Britain. But I think that BAE was a specific tactic to try and get Podletkov, or whatever his name is, to come over to Britain so the CIA could kill him. Because they don't care what happens as long as no one gets this technology. And it seems to me that instead they have no interest in what he knows because he's 20 years behind what they know.
Yeah.
They just want him dead.
Yeah, they just don't want to risk.
They didn't want. Amy was just trying to get people to start talking about it, so they killed a 34-year-old Alabama girl. I mean, who kills someone like that?
Yeah.
I mean, God, they've got no interest in America as an entity of people. Whoever these people are a complete spin-off.
Yeah.
Part of our civilization.
Yeah, I definitely leaning towards that as well. So let's wrap up today. I think we've we kind of are of the mindset that this is definitely a organized hit to silence specific technologies from other people, other countries, general public of getting hold of it. I don't only think it's anti-gravitics. I think it's also 0-point energy with some of the other scientists there.
Hang on a second. I'm not quite. Do you need to get out of here? Are you in a rush?
No, I'm not in a rush. No.
Okay. Well, I want to say a couple more things because I think it goes deeper than that. Right.
Okay.
I think that this is more than about the technology. I think it's what they've discovered since they've had it.
Okay.
To me, that's what this is really all about. I think that a lot of what people refer to as supernatural and all the rest of it, and UAPs are the same entities.
Yes.
Right?
Fair point.
And if you look at some, let's just take for example the pyramids, right? Okay, now if you think about the pyramids and Orion's central belt, okay, it is inverted, like the map would have to be upside down. But when you're looking at the sky and looking at the earth, that is the way round it would be if you were looking at it from above.
Okay, well, I was interested to know where you're going with this.
Right? What if these guys have been to Orion and found something absolutely fundamental about our origin? Whoever built the pyramids wanted us to know something about Orion no matter what happened to planet Earth. Right? If you think about something like Baalbek, where they built that Roman temple on top of those huge 1,200-ton stones, there was a 1,600-ton stone they were halfway through cutting out, and then they were gone.
Yeah, they left in a hurry.
Or something wiped them out. Then think about Cydonia on Mars. It's got all these structures that are like 3 miles wide that look like a face and pyramid, and yet the whole place is completely annihilated. Something wiped them out. I think our civilization reached a point where we were traversing to Orion and finding something fundamental about ourselves, i.e. our creators, and maybe even challenging them for control of our own eternal soul or something like this.
Our sovereignty,
Well, you know, our life and death. That the world we live in, the world of the 2 hemispheres of the mind, you know, Castaneda's allies, you know, the Greys, whatever the heck you want to call them, I think we can physically access them by going to Orion exactly the same way you can do by taking DMT. I think it's one and the same thing. The distance to Orion is what we overcome either spiritually,
metaphysically,
or we can do it with technology. It's 2 different types of technology, but it's making the same journey.
Yeah.
And if we can get there and kill the Eater of the Dead or whatever the hell they have up there, then our lives become immortal.
Interesting. I like the thing.
This is. I'm just trying to come up with, because you know when you look at Mars and you look at these rocks that are halfway cut out of the ground, well, how do you tie it all up? You've got to find something that ties it all up.
There's a lot of lost civilization theories going around based on evidence, not just theories. They're based on...
Why is Orion such a big idea? Why are the stars such a big idea? In all these places, the stars are right at the centre.
Yeah.
Then we've got the Cydonia thing, because, of course, we were travelling between them.
But we also have testimony from, you know, the Native Americans, people in South America, South American Indians, that, you know, beings of higher intelligence, beings of almost godlike stature, were influencing them, were telling them. But they're also telling them to sacrifice people. They're also telling them...
What you say, but what if they were telling them... When you see sacrifice is an interesting word.
Yeah.
If you think about the belief of the Egyptians, right? When you were ready to beat the Eater of the Dead, to get past him, you died that day. When you were ready, you went. Because eternity is eternity, and life on earth is nothing.
Yeah, it's very finite.
So when you were ready to face the Eater of the Dead, you killed you. You were sacrificed, in inverted commas. You know, you went through a ceremony where your throat was slit or whatever they did to you to make the journey. Now, were they really telling them to sacrifice people, or were they really telling them to send people to this thing
send their consciousness to Orion,
where they could get them past? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can see where you're going with this.
I'm trying to tie all of this up together, because to me, the idea that the pyramids is just a coincidence. There's all these amazing places 72 degrees around planet Earth, all these gigantic rocks we couldn't cut, the Romans built on top of, Jerusalem's built on top of stuff we couldn't cut today. There's examples are all over the world. These people were fitting bricks together that were completely earthquake-proof, which still stand today as perfectly as when they were built. And there's no sign of them.
Yeah.
Now, if you knew you were going to be wiped out, you would do something to give us a bit more than they've got. They had to have been wiped out like that.
Instantaneously, yeah.
And I think they were wiped out like that because they had discovered exactly the kind of technology that Podletnov...
Do you think that if we are seen to have discovered this technology, we could be wiped out instantaneously as well?
I think all of these kind of...
Is that why it's being kept quiet, and that's why they're silencing us? Because for us to indicate to the higher beings, the Galactic Federations, or whoever these entities are, for them to know that we have got the technology, the Greys, whoever, for them to have the knowledge that we are now on a par with them technologically, a threat again, we would be instantaneously wiped out.
I think that all of this worshipping stuff that's supposed to be at the centre of like the American Jewish and British Jewish and Indian Hindu, all these kind of secret devil worshipping sects. Nobody worships a devil. Why would you worship something that's always going to betray you? They are people being controlled by these things that live up in Orion, by the Greys.
Yeah.
They have a connection through some means or other. Some people are chosen. Some people just have a stronger right-hand brain
starseed,
hemisphere,
you mean?
hemisphere than others.
Yeah.
And they are communicated with by these things, and they are used to steer us away. And they kill anyone that gets close to it, so they can go straight to the Eater of the Dead, who eats their awareness, and they're gone forever. And that's how they keep themselves safe.
I can see where you're going with that, and I've kind of given that some thought previously as to why this secret is kept so murderously.
Yes.
And why wouldn't you want us to have free energy? Why wouldn't you want us to travel the stars?
This idea that it's something to do with bloody oil barons. No oil baron goes around killing everyone. This is complete nonsense. Nobody's that desperate for money. Yeah. You might be worried about 600,000 employees, but then why wouldn't you kill Elon Musk for doing electric cars? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is not about oil barons. This is about something fundamental that would completely change our threat level to other beings. That's the only thing I can think of that would make people kill a young woman and make it look like she shot herself in the head at the drop of a hat.
I really like that. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I've thought that there is no other reason than to protect ourselves, prevent ourselves from being annihilated as a species, because these beings are hundreds of thousands, millions of years more advanced. They are on a technological level that is conscious based. It's not physical.
They are inorganic.
Yes.
In other words, they are immortal compared to us. But if we went up there and destroyed the Eater of the Dead, we'd be immortal.
Interesting.
And then all we'd have to do...
But who is the Eater of the Dead? What species are you saying the Eater of the Dead belongs to?
I don't know what he is.
An Archon? What do you think in that sense?
All I can tell
Reptilian?
All I can tell you about how it appears to people from what the Egyptians say... To the Native American sorcerers, it appears to be a gigantic hawk or eagle. To the Egyptians, it just appears to be a sort of combination of the most terrifying things you've ever thought of, like a crocodile, hippopotamus, lion, monster thing. Yeah. Sort of, some people say it looks like a
Minotaur
werewolf,
or something,
or a minotaur, or a cyclops, or an ogre. So I think,
it's just manifesting.
It
manifests itself to the person viewing it.
Exactly, it manifests as frightening as it can be. But if you could actually fly there to see where it really is, even if it's non-biological, that doesn't mean you couldn't hit it with a nuke.
Yeah. You
see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a plasma-based being.
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
If we have the technology to get there, we can find a way to destroy it. And what if destroying it restored the immortality to everyone it's ever eaten?
Yeah, it is the gatekeeper of consciousness,
What-
of
what
our
would
consciousness.
What would happen if that happened? What would happen if that's how incredible the truth of our world is that we are at war with an enemy that we can't even see. And even when we take our DMT or whatever and we meet these greys are emissaries for
A much higher power.
a higher power, and they help us avoid the Eater of the Dead. But what if we had the technology to actually get there and kick his ass?
Yeah. We are threat level number
Then
one.
we become a threat. Because whatever
Because we are stupid enough to do that.
Exactly.
We are absolutely stupid
Absolutely.
enough. Especially where we are now as a society. We can't even...
allies, the Greys,
Yeah.
whatever they are, even when they hit Travis Walton or whatever, they just fix him,
Yeah.
leave him out there. They don't interfere with anyone.
Yeah.
They have a certain sort of mindset, which means that they are no threat to the Eater of the Dead. Whatever the Eater of the Dead is, they just don't tangle with it.
Yeah.
We are way too stupid for that.
Yeah, we cannot be trusted on a galactic scale to not...
That to me is the only thing I can think of that would explain why you would kill everyone that's got anything to do with it. I just can't think of another reason. Because if it was about oil, you would just steal them, put them in a place somewhere like, Operation Paperclip, invent the next best thing, and then take that over and then screw over all the other oil companies. It would give you more power.
Yeah.
This can't be about money. This is about something fundamentally important to our mortality.
Yeah, and our understanding of our origins. And I also like the fact that this has happened before. Mars being an example, made an example
whether
of.
Mars was our original home, or whether, because that would be the ideal way to do it to me, is if you just destroyed our original home, made put this one into the right place, moved enough flora and fauna over to make it work, there'd be no evidence. The oldest evidence is the pyramids, after all.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the pyramids compared to the face,
They're nothing compared to that.
it's nothing. So it's almost as if. But I think, in all probability, it's more likely that we coexisted. I think we found a way to make Mars inhabitable. And because gravity was much less, we could build much greater things there.
Yeah.
And that's when they started to realise we were going to become a threat.
Yeah.
And they just annihilated Mars, which was kind of like, the Alexandria to the Greeks. It was kind of like where all the smartest, fastest learning people were. They just completely annihilated that, and almost annihilated this place with flood and everything else. And then,
But they needed us for something.
Well, because they harvest the Eater of the Dead.
They harvest our souls and our consciousness.
The Eater of the Dead eats our awareness, our perception,
Our fears.
as his food.
And how he controls the power of our consciousness and how he feeds off of our fears and our emotions and so forth. I just wanted to add another thing in regarding that is when people have had interactions with extraterrestrials or these beings, whoever they are.
You're talking about the Greys or the Allies or the
Greys, maybe the Galactic Federation, Palladians. Yeah. When they've had these interactions, they've often been told, the person that's been abducted has often been told that you do not know how much power you have and how lucky you are to contain such energies and conscious thought that you don't realise it. You don't realise your potential.
Well, it's also true that a lot of people report when they take DMT is the first thing they're told is, "We're so glad you discovered this technology."
Yes.
Because that almost makes me think, I don't want to get the Greys or the emissaries or anyone into any trouble, that they're waiting for us to do this. Without us, he's nothing.
He doesn't exist.
But if we catch up with him, he's even more screwed.
Yeah.
You know, so I think he is the ultimate gatekeeper. I was saying he because I can't imagine a girl could be that evil, but you never know.
Yeah.
It. I don't think it deserves to have a gender, does it?
No.
It's just a monster of the ultimate proportion.
Like the clown.
Well,
where your thoughts power it.
Well, in other
and
words,
your fears power it. It
exactly,
is like the cloud,
exactly.
isn't it?
It is. But it turns us from being immortal beings to being tragedies by its existence.
That is a fantastic theory, and I'm really I want to give that some more thought. You know.
Well, I think probably we better sign off while we give it a bit more thought then, because I think I've kind of taken myself to a place there even further than I intended to go. But the reason I wanted everyone to have a think about that is what I love about that theory so much is there's so many things that fit. Once you have the idea of something like that, you can start to look at all the ideas of devil worshipping.
Yeah.
You know, which is something that makes no sense. Why you would ever worship something that will always betray you? It makes absolutely no sense. Look at all the sort of legality and nonsense of stuff like we were reading earlier of Wikipedia. It's all just confusing nonsense going around in circles. It's not designed to explain anything. It's just designed to confuse the heck out of you.
Yeah, right.
Why?
Right.
It's not designed to say these people are responsible.
It's designed to keep you
or
confused.
These people are responsible. It's just designed to make sure you don't start to put anything together. And surely enough, the only way I've found to put something together is to come up with a theory so absurd. But it's like Sherlock Holmes says, when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth. And that's what I feel about that theory.
And with that, we are signing off. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. Good night.
See you next time.